Hey guys, just a little video here on my AR-15 build. This is actually the very first AR-15 that I've ever put together myself. And as a matter of fact, it's actually the very first AR-15 I've ever owned. So how about that? I started this build on Black Friday as of last year. I looked online, I saw some pretty good deals for AR-15 parts and accessories and the lower receiver, so I went ahead and pulled the trigger on it, pun intended. The lower receiver itself I got from AIM Surplus, and it's actually a Spikes Tactical lower receiver. And I was actually impressed to be able to find it online for about $90. As far as I know, Spikes Tactical is known for having good quality AR-15 parts and complete builds. So I was really happy about that. Here's their spider logo. I'm really not too crazy about it, but I also don't mind it either. What I really like about this build with this lower receiver here is the trigger assembly. It basically has these little, photos here. It kind of reminds me a lot of the Navy style trigger groups for, MP5s and all of that. So I thought that was really cool. But for those of you who are new and maybe don't know a whole lot about AR-15s or guns in general, the lower receiver itself is actually just this small portion right here on the bottom. So this would be the lower receiver. The Spikes Tactical part is just this solid piece right here. So none of these retaining pins, the trigger assembly, trigger, magazine release, bolt catch release, none of those parts, even the pistol grip and the adjustable stock, none of those parts actually count as the receiver, which is actually considered to be the firearm. So these parts actually came with this upper receiver here, which I got from JSE Surplus. It cost me about $465. So considering the fact that it came with the upper completed as is, with the exception of the red dot, and all of the parts and accessories I needed to put the rest of the lower receiver together, it was actually, I thought, a pretty good deal. And I'm pretty happy about this build. Overall, it did not cost me a whole lot of money. 90 and 465 only comes out to about $555. So out the door, even with the background check and transfer fee for the lower receiver, that still put me less than $600 for the entire build. So I thought that was pretty good. What I really liked about the parts kit that came with the JSE Surplus upper, in addition to having everything, the main portion of the kit for the inside of the lower receiver, it was actually CMMG. And what I really liked about them was the fact that they put all of the parts into little Ziploc bags, and they were all color coordinated. And so that made it a lot easier for me to put together myself, being that, it's not something that I've ever done before. And so, all these little parts and pieces that you see here, it was actually very easy to do. It was very step-by-step with how CMMG organized everything. And, given that this is my first build ever, not something I've ever done before, it just made it a lot easier, and I'm really happy with that. So kudos to CMMG. Also, the upper receiver itself, it's basically put together from parts from a few different companies, like all ARs, right? The upper receiver itself is actually done by Brass Aluminum Forgings Enterprises, and the gas block right here is done by BTE, which stands for Battle Tested Equipment. It's not anything too amazing. It's just a run-of-the-mill gas block. but it is the same height. These rails are the same height as they are on the lower receiver, which means it's basically ready for you to throw on whatever iron sight setup you want. So I thought that was really cool, just to get something that's readily available for me to customize. So the thing that I'm probably most the thing that I like most about this upper receiver right here actually is the barrel. It's a heavy barrel, and it's actually produced by ESS Solutions. It's a heavy profile barrel, and it's made out of 4150 chrome moly vanadium steel. It's got a 1-in-7 twist, and it also has a nitride finish. So given that it's a heavy profile barrel, it should offer better stability for some better accuracy, as well as, you know, having a little bit more heat resistance. So I'm really happy about that. The barrel's a little bit heavier than your standard profile AR barrel, but I think it's worth every ounce when it comes to the barrel, as long as it's not excessive. But you know, having a little bit heavier and thicker barrel definitely doesn't hurt that much. So it's really worth it in my opinion. Also, the 1-in-7 twist I really like, because that gives me the option to fire some really heavy rounds out of this upper receiver here. And also, this is pretty interesting to me, because this is actually my first, like I said, it's my first AR-15, and so this is the first AR-15 bolt carrier group that I've ever really owned. I was actually always issued the M16, which has, you know, a mil-spec bolt carrier group. I'm seeing a lot of people out there that are really all about getting their mil-spec parts and everything. I don't see that to be a problem. And to be quite honest, this AR-15 bolt carrier group, it is lighter and it's not necessarily, I guess, mil-spec, but that's actually what I like about it. Because of the fact that it's lighter, I'm not having to carry as much weight around. And one thing I have noticed about this is when I shot it, it seemed to have a little bit less recoil. There didn't seem to be as much action going on inside the receiver. So that was a plus too. And in my opinion, I mean, if I can save some weight and reduce the recoil a little bit, I'll do it. You know, I'm all for that. So one thing I did want to point out is the staking in the gas keys, or the gas key. It actually looks pretty clean, and it looks to be very well done from what I can tell. Again, I'm not an expert on this, not just yet, but it does look very well done. It's very cleanly done, in my opinion. So, and like I said, I don't seem to have any problem with the bolt carrier group or anything. It runs just fine so far. So there's nothing really negative that I see about it so far. They say that you need a mil-spec bolt carrier group if you're going full auto. I don't intend on doing that necessarily, so I think that it's perfectly just fine for my needs. So I am 100% happy with it. Let's see if I can just get this back in. There we go. Also, given that it's not a mil-spec bolt carrier group with that extra weight, that also means that I can save some more weight with the buffer itself. So, and this is a mil-spec buffer tube along with the mil-spec buttstock. So, and there's nothing really too crazy beneficial there. It's basically just a standard of you know, telling you what type of buttstock you need to get in order for it to fit and all that. And right now, if you guys want to know, it's actually wearing a Tatco T6 buttstock pad. So very inexpensive. It seems to cut down on recoil, but I mean, so does everything else. So it's hard to tell at this point where it's all coming from. But I mean, I like it, and it didn't really cost a whole lot of money, and it works for what it is. So now, as far as the upper receiver, the red dot, this is the one piece that didn't really, well, in addition to the Tatco buttstock butt pad, this red dot is an Osprey, and I am by no way, shape, or form necessarily endorsing them. I'll let you guys take a look at the red dot right here. And all in all, I mean, it's pretty cool and all, but the thing that I have a problem with the Osprey is this is actually my second model that I've had from them. The first one I had, the red actually burned out, and I had to send it back in. And so this is the second model I've had. It's been working for me pretty well, but in my opinion, it's just not the clearest dot that I've ever seen. Now, I only paid about $40 for this, so I know some of you might be saying, oh, well, you know, what do you expect? Well, honestly, I've seen some pretty decent red dots, at least better than this, for around the same price. So, not knocking on them too much, but I still think it could have been better. Okay, and that's just me, I guess. But now, as far as how the rifle shot for me when I took it to the range, now I only fired about 100 rounds through it, and that's really not that much at all. At this point, it's hardly even broken in. I fired about, like I said, 100 rounds. I had one failure to feed, and I don't know if it's from the build. If you guys want to know, I was using a Lancer L5 magazine, which they seem to run reasonably well most of the time, but they're not really what I would necessarily call an ideal magazine. I think they're fine for training, but when it comes down to it, they don't have an anti-tilt follower, and these followers can tilt on you, and that can cause jamming. So I actually don't know at this point if it was due to the magazine or if it was just because of the fact that the rifle was a fresh build and the parts need time to break in and figure out how to work together. So it really could have been either at this point, but all in all, one failure to feed out of 100, it's really not too bad. So, and if you guys want to know, even though this has a 1 in 7 twist, I did fire 55 grain ammunition through it, and I think that's perfectly fine. Personally, I don't think I'll go with anything other than a 1 in 7 because of the fact that, you know, like I said, it can fire 55 grain ammunition just fine, in my opinion. And if I want to go with heavier rounds, the option's there. And as of right now, there is no bullet, at least to my knowledge, that a 1 in 7 twist will not stabilize. So, in my opinion, there's really not much of a point to go with anything other than a 1 in 7. But maybe that's just me. You know, you might decide differently, and you're all more than welcome to. So, now personally, I wasn't really too fond of AR-15s or, you know, pretty much the entire M4, M16 class of weaponry. Like I said, I was always issued, you know, M16s, and, you know, I've never really been a huge fan on them. They're okay, they work. I really don't care much for the direct gas impingement operation. So, you know, pretty much everyone I ever had, they jammed. They're very finicky. You have to baby them. You have to make sure that they're completely clean. And, you know, even then, it's still questionable sometimes. But in all fairness, a lot of the ones that I did have, you know, they were older models, and they had seen a lot of use and were somewhat worn down. So that might have been it. You know, I used to think that AR-15s were going to cost me around, you know, $800 or $1,000, and I just kind of never saw the point before. But, you know, after realizing that I could put one together for less than $600, I figured, you know, to go ahead and go through with it, especially because, you know, a lot of civilians out there still have a lot of love for these AR-15s. And it's easy to see why in a lot of ways, because, you know, the parts are very available. What I've discovered is that they can be very affordable. They're not too difficult to work on. And, you know, there's a pretty solid standard across the board for all of them. I mean, there are so many different types of parts, furniture, magazines. It's very easy to mount iron sights, aftermarket iron sights, and optics. So they're just very modular when it comes to that. And just the fact that as long as you have this lower receiver, I mean, if I wanted to, I could just order an upper receiver and, you know, have it shipped to me through the mail and put it on here. And, you know, it would work with possibly, you know, a different ammunition type or maybe just a different barrel length. or whatever I want to do. So for a civilian to own this, it is very modular to a degree. So I like I said, I definitely see the appeal there for that reason. So now I know I haven't gotten a whole lot of trigger time with this, but I do intend to in the future. The reason why I haven't put too many rounds through this rifle itself is because of the fact that, you know, ammunition has been really expensive, and because of that, you know, the ammunition that we do get, you know, we like to hang on to. So, you know, we kind of live in uncertain times. You know, it's difficult to tell what might be in store for, you know, gun owners in the near future, and there's just a lot of uncertainty. So, you know, the ammunition that people do have, a lot of them, you know, like to hang on to what they have. I would have loved to have put a lot more rounds through this thing, but you know, for those reasons, it's just very difficult to. So, but I definitely will in the future. But at this point, there's so many things I'm going to have to change about it that it's not even worth it to some degree. You know, I'm going to be changing out the optic. I'm going to be changing out the handguard, the gas block, even the furniture back here. And it probably, well, I'm going to change out the flash hider for something else. Right now, by the way, that's just a standard A2 birdcage flash hider, so nothing too exciting. But, you know, I'm going to do so much customization to this that in the end I am going to have to change my zero anyway, and at this point it's not necessarily worth it to put that many rounds on range. So right now it's zeroed. You know, if I aim with it, it's going to hit where I aim it, and as of right now, that's all I need to know. And this isn't my only firearm. You know, I do go shooting a little bit more often, but you know, 223 and 5.56 ammunition can be a little bit more pricey, considering the other options that are out there. So that's why, you know, this thing hasn't seen too much action, and I do want to keep this in decent condition. So, but yeah, not too shabby in the end, guys. Like I said, $90 for the lower receiver, $465 for the upper, and all the included parts that go inside the lower receiver. You know, out the door for $600. I mean, that's by my standard a good deal. I do think that if you guys want to put an AR-15 together yourself, this coming up year might be the time to do it. You know, there's been a lot of gun buying craze in the past. It's kind of died down a little, and as long as things don't change for the worse anytime soon, it might be a really good year, because, you know, I've seen a lot of AR-15s really go down in price. So you might be able to put a really decent build together for not a whole lot of money. Might be a lot less than you think. So if you're willing to put in a little bit of time into it and build even half of it, it'll save you some money. However, you know, if you're feeling particularly savvy and you want to put the upper together as well, I don't think that's a bad idea at all. I don't regret my decision to get the upper as is. I think it was fine for the time. It was a little bit of a challenge for me to put the lower together. Not really challenging, but it was just new to me is all. So, you know, trying to put the lower receiver together and the upper at the same time, I think it would have been a little bit more. But at the same time, I mean, if I ever put another AR-15 build together myself, I'm most likely going to build it piece by piece. So, and I'll tell you why. For just a very main reason right here, this handguard, I mean, I don't mind it. And by the way, this is a standard AR-15 handguard. It's not mil-spec or anything. I don't really care for the M4 profile handguards. They're actually a little bit thicker. The AR-15 itself, these handguards are slimmer, and they allow me to get a better hold on the handguard. So I really don't mind them. I don't think anything is wrong with them at all, and I actually prefer them, to be honest. So, but my point is that in order for me to put this rifle together the way I want it, once I decide on a free-floating handguard and a low-profile gas block, I'm basically going to have to take so much of this upper apart, this upper receiver. I'm going to have to take so much of it apart that I may as well build the thing on my own. So, you know, building the entire thing piece by piece just getting it done and getting it done right the first time through. If you feel that you're capable of doing it, I would highly recommend it. And like I said, I mean, if I put another AR-15 together, at least a direct gas impingement one, I'll most likely put it together piece by piece. So there you have it, guys. There's my first AR-15. You know, it wasn't too difficult to put together, and it didn't cost me a whole lot of money. And I'm actually pretty pleased with it. And I think that says a lot coming from somebody who's not necessarily such a fanboy of AR-15s. I think that they're great rifles for what they are, and they're modular for use by civilians, but they're not necessarily all that, in my opinion. So, but hey, that's just me. Anyway, that concludes my video. So be sure to like and subscribe if you're new, or go ahead and dislike it, and if you don't like it, I don't care. But you know, or go ahead and comment in the comment section below. But yeah, that's it. I will be putting some more videos together, so stay tuned in the future. And I have big plans for this rifle, and I'm going to keep working on it, and so I'll be sure to put another video out. Right now, this isn't a review so much as it is a preview. So all things considered, I hope you guys enjoyed it. But alright, later guys.